Every single day, people want to start new habits. They want to start sleeping on time. They want to start eating healthier. They want to quit smoking. All of these things, what they are essentially is a collection of habits. But if you don't understand your dopamine reward system and how your dopamine reward system works, you will ultimately end up failing. One very important key feature of dopamine is that dopamine chooses for you. You never had the option in the first place because dopamine will get released into whatever feels better. And like I said, from an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. This makes sense to want to choose the thing that's going to be more enjoyable, more pleasurable, and obviously more filling. But nowadays, because big corporations are abusing your dopamine system, it is making it harder for you to be able to stick to good habits and get rid of old ones. Now let's say this is you over here. You are trying to reach your goal, whatever your goal may be. Let's say your goal is trying to get a new girlfriend, or maybe trying to find a new job, or maybe trying to find a wife to have kids with. It doesn't really matter. But what's going to happen is you're going to have roadblocks along the way that are going to stop you from getting to your goal. And these are going to be a collection of bad habits that you've built up over the years of always giving into your dopamine because you had no willpower. But there is a trick to this because there's two things that you have to remember. One is what we focus on becomes our reality. And number two is going to be removal of negatives. So when we focus on something intently, if we're focusing on the goal all the time, that's when you are going to win. And how are you going to focus on the goal? How are you going to get laser focused on the goal? You have to remove all negative things. And the way you do this is by essentially removing all of the bad things, all of the negative things in your life that are going to stop you from reaching this goal. And I realized this that I didn't want to watch TV anymore, that I would have rather slept in. So what did I do? I got rid of the TV. I didn't want to spend time on Instagram instead of reading, so I just got rid of Instagram altogether. And what ended up happening was because I didn't have these things, I didn't have TV, I didn't have Instagram, now there's no way for me to fall back and do these things, do these negative things, because it was a removal of the negative things. So I just end up sleeping because there's nothing else for me to do. I don't turn on the TV, there's nothing else to do, so I just end up sleeping. I don't go on Instagram. If I'm looking for something to do, I'll open a book because there is no other option. You have to remove these things. You've heard of people telling you that you have to, in order for you to stop eating junk food, you have to get rid of the junk food in your house. And that's exactly how you're going to be able to eat the chicken over the pizza every single day. You're going to get rid of the pizza altogether, and then you're going to only eat chicken. That's what's going to happen. You have to remove these things. And that's the thing. People keep introducing new things into their life, and it's becoming harder and harder and harder to stick to the positives. So what I challenge you to do is to go on what I call the Great Purge and go through your house and make a list of all the things that are negative in your life and just begin removing them and making it very difficult for you to be able to access them. So for example, you might not get rid of your Instagram. You might not delete your Instagram forever, but you might put website blockers on your phone. You might put website blockers on your computer. And then that way, you're never going to be able to go on Instagram. You're going to have to jump through a bunch of hoops to go on Instagram. And then so to be able to jump through those hoops, you have to first tell yourself that this is going to be worth it. Versus just being able to flip open your phone, press a button, and then boom, you're on Instagram, distracting yourself from reading. And then ultimately, distracting yourself from your main goal. Because remember, what we focus on becomes our reality. And if we're constantly focusing on these things, we're never going to reach our goal. You're going to stray away from your goal, and you're going to end up being in the pits. The people who struggle the most are the ones with the most amount of options. They have the pizza, they have the Instagram, they have the chicken, they have the books, they have the YouTube, they have the work. It's the people who got rid of everything else that are able to stay on the path. That is going to be your number one factor to success. There is one more very, very important thing, and that is what gets measured gets improved. And that's why I created a habit tracking sheet for you to download. The download is available right below this video. And what you do is you essentially just track your habits. You track your good habits. So for example, you might track that you want to read every single day. You want to read at least 25 pages per day. And you want to track this. If you track it, you're going to be able to see where you stand with this habit. Because if you know at the end of the month that you stuck to the habit only 80% of the time or only 60% of the time, you know that that is something that you need to work on. Otherwise, you're just always shooting in the dark. And whenever you end up failing this habit for, let's say, a few days in a row, since you're not tracking it, you just end up giving up and forgetting about it until a few months go by and then you get reminded that you wanted to read. Now, this is where a lot of people fail. But if you are able to track your habits, if you're able to see it visually how well you're doing throughout the month, then it's going to be a lot easier to stick to it. And you're going to get reminded constantly that this is something that you want to work on. Now, a lot of people, they say that you should work on only one habit at a time. Now, this is something that is just a lie. You should not be working on one habit at a time. You need to create a lifestyle change. It all works together. If you end up going less on Instagram, you're going to end up sleeping better. If you end up if you end up not eating pizza, you're going to work better. So all of these habits, they work together, and you have to work on a bunch of them at a time in order for you to be able to see true success. A lot of people, they work on one habit at a time. When I worked on 10 habits at a time, and I was able to excel much faster than they were because I can work on multiple habits at a time. And that's the way that you should do it. It should be a snowball effect. It shouldn't just be working on one habit at a time. That is way too boring and way too slow. So here's what I recommend. Use the habit tracking sheet. The download is right below, and start tracking your habits. Inside that habit tracking sheet, I wrote a list of 8 habits that I think are essential for you to start working on right now. And they include things like cold showers, reading 25 pages, not jacking off, and only using about 1 hour of media per day, amongst a few other habits that I think are really beneficial and what I found were really beneficial in my life and my clients' life that helped them the most. If you focus on these habits and you start measuring and tracking these habits now, then you're going to do really well. Because remember, what gets measured gets improved. If you don't measure it, you're not going to be able to improve it. And that is very, very important for you to remember. What gets measured gets improved. So keeping in mind all of these things that dopamine chooses for you, and what we focus on becomes our reality. And if we focus on these things here, we're going to stray away from our goal every single time. What gets measured gets managed. So track your habits. Track your habits and see how well you're doing with your habits at the end of the month and make adjustments from there. Otherwise, you're just shooting in the dark and it's going to be very, very messy. And definitely don't just work on one habit at a time. Work on many, many habits at the same time. That way you can make a snowball effect and you can make massive change that is going to motivate you. And the last thing is remove the negatives from your life. Completely remove them. Get rid of your phone apps on your phone. Get rid of all the distraction devices that you have. Get rid of your TV. Get rid of your Netflix account. Or if you can't get rid of it, then lock it. Make it hard for you to get to. These are going to be the things that are going to separate the winners from the people who just succumb to their dopamine reward system. And I can tell you that ever since I started following these steps, I have seen way more success in my life. I've seen way more happiness. I'm less depressed. I'm less anxious. I have a clear head. And it was so worth it that I'm not just pleasuring myself all the time. Over the next few videos, I'm going to teach you a few things about how to work on some of these habits, specifically how to work on your phone and how to work on your nutrition, because those are the two things that are going to give you the most bang for your buck. It's your nutrition and your phone. So I'll see you in those videos.